Inputs to manage stakeholder engagement. After completing this topic, you should be able to recognize the inputs to the manage stakeholder engagement process. If you are following along with the PM Book Guide 6th edition, Manage Stakeholder Engagement is process 13.3, where the executing process group and project stakeholder management knowledge areas intersect. The inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs are figure 13.7. Managing stakeholders is more complicated than managing the members of a project team. Stakeholders come from many different business backgrounds and have different, sometimes competing expectations and objectives. As well, stakeholders may hold considerable power and economic interest in the project. They can't simply be assigned a task or responsibility, nor can they be expected to just do what you tell them. They need to be engaged. The Manage Stakeholder Engagement process helps you to increase support and minimize resistance from your stakeholders by anticipating and addressing potential issues before they get out of control. When stakeholders are efficiently and effectively engaged with the project, it can significantly increase the chances of project success. Not engaging stakeholders or engaging them poorly can lead to misunderstandings, false expectations, and unnecessary waste of time and resources. Some project managers operate in a crisis mode. They think that the most efficient use of their time is to deal with what's happening here and now, and not with what might happen in the future. But this attitude is strategically short-sighted. To get the most value from your relationships, you should begin managing engagement early in the project and continue throughout its life cycle. The inputs of the Manage Stakeholder Engagement process are used to identify when stakeholder relationships need to be developed, adjusted, or reworked. There are a total of 4 inputs that you use to perform this process. Let's talk about the first one, the project management plan. There are 4 subsidiary plans within the project management plan that you will need. First, the stakeholder engagement plan is the basis of your stakeholder engagement strategy. It contains information on the potential impact of stakeholders on project success, as well as strategies and communication requirements. It also contains current and desired stakeholder engagement levels. These levels are used to determine the strategic approach to engaging stakeholders in relation to their importance to achieving objectives. Key stakeholders, those with greatest influence on the project, should be engaged at an optimal level. Another component of the project management plan that you will use is the communications management plan. This information includes stakeholder requirements such as language, format, content, and level of detail. For example, it identifies which stakeholders get which type of communication, the purpose of the communication, the owner of task, the frequency and method of distribution, and whether the communication is internal or external. And the risk management plan contains details about risk categories, appetites, and reporting formats that is helpful for managing stakeholder engagement. And finally, the change management plan contains the details for change submission, evaluation, and implementation procedures, which will be useful if you have to submit any changes as a result of managing stakeholder engagement. Not all inputs involve project plans. The project plan, the project change log, includes various rows and columns, for example. The column headers are originator, distribution of change, date received, date required, scope impact, schedule impact, spending impact, and approved. Yes and no. It also lists the name of the project and the project sponsor. The second input is project documents. This includes the change log, issue log, lessons learned register, and the stakeholder register, which all contain valuable information that you will need to manage stakeholder engagement. For example, the project change log is a list of pending and accepted change requests. In project management, these changes are strategic deviations from previously established project plans and processes. When a change is entered into the log, you will have to anticipate whether the change has the potential to impact stakeholder engagement. If so, you will need to determine which stakeholders need to be informed and what is the best strategic approach for engaging each one. Important information gleaned from the change log that is relevant to managing stakeholder engagement includes the priority of change, its potential impact on scope, cost or schedule, and suggested actions for implementing the change. This information will guide you in identifying who, if any, of the project stakeholders should be engaged. The last two inputs to the managed stakeholder engagement process are enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Relevant enterprise environmental factors to this process include the organization's culture, political climate, and governance structure, stakeholder risk thresholds, personnel administration policies, established communication channels, trends, practices, and habits, and the geographic distribution of resources and facilities. Examples of organizational process assets that are particularly important for stakeholder engagement include procedures for controlling changes and managing issues. For example, your organization may have standard operation procedures for work processes. These need to be observed when you are engaging stakeholders. The archived files from past similar projects are also a good source of information for how to best manage stakeholder engagement on the current project.